Hey people, what's up? I am very excited to be back on this topic again. We're talking about oppression still, and basically the conversation continues. I don't know how I look right now, but that's okay. Y'all give me a little bit of leeway, okay? Because I'm not a makeup artist. I'm not a video editor. I'm not adjusting no lighting. I'm honestly dying in front of this camera right now, but we are getting ready to talk. So last time we did this video, last time I did this video, I talked about the different types of oppression. Those things being oppression of the mind or the spirit, oppression of the body, and also social oppression. So now I want to talk about oppression in the form of education and also in the form of religion. So I really want the topic to sort of stay consistent but still to be relevant to what's going on in society. So I'm not an expert or anything on the statistics, but from what I can tell by the trends that I can see is people are not necessarily concerned about religion anymore. And I mean, there are a few, of course, there are people who still ascribe to a religion, but from what I can just absorb from my environment, I can tell that several people are starting to accept the fact that religion may not be all it was cracked up to be. So I want to talk about how religion has come to oppress us in a way that we are not readily able or willing to address. So let's just say, for example, the word salvation. When you hear that word, it usually applies to an outside deity, or it applies to some sort of enlightened person who would roam the face of the earth, performing miracles and doing things that are not necessarily humanly possible. But it was humanly possible for this particular deity or this particular God, so to speak, because they were endowed with these powers. So what I would like to do is to draw a connection between salvation and ascension. Ascension is a spiritual term that describes what, in essence, we are making reference to when we talk about salvation. So salvation is in a religious sense, is the idea that a person can be saved. Meaning their soul will not have to endure the depths of hell if they are able to live a certain way, if they believe a certain way, or if they believe a certain thing or in a certain person or a certain entity, then they have salvation because of those things. So what I would like to present as a thought that I would like for all of us to entertain, of course, entertain the thought that salvation is ascension. If you can conceptualize what ascension is, then to me you've already understood what salvation is. So I think it's really imperative for us as beings, as spiritual beings, that we understand the spiritual concepts that are being conveyed to us by way of religion, because otherwise we'll be thrown off and everybody will end up like me, confused and angry. I was super confused about what I did not know, and it started to mess with my life and my relationship. That's another topic that we'll talk about later. But the idea of us being gods. Now, the Bible does tell us that we are gods in the flesh, and that we have the ability to co-create with the Creator. And so what I'm observing in my environment is that humans like to get caught up in the fact that there is a creator, not necessarily that we are co-creators. And I think that that is equally as important, because, you know, it's like having a co-signer on your debt or on your credit card or your car loan. If you're not able to make the payment, then the co-signer or the co-applicant is responsible for the same exact debt that you are. And so we have to, we'd be wise. I hate to impose myself or my beliefs onto another person or a group of people, but I think it would be wise for us to start understanding that being a co-creator means that we are literally the same as the Creator. The same. There is no separation between what we are and what the Creator is. So, in essence, we are mini versions. Okay, every person has a mini God system. You can think of it, God is a collection of systems that works together. They all work together in order to perform the act of manifestation or the act of creation. We all have the ability to manifest. We all have the ability to create, just the same way we think of when we talk about God, or when we talk about some other entity that's supposed to be more powerful than we are. Please hear me when I tell you, entertain the thought. Okay, you are the same as the creator that you are ascribing the power to. That creator actually created all of us with the same powers. So the idea that belief is a part of oppression. Now, I might need to go back, because salvation is involved, or the misinterpretation of the terms about salvation being equal to ascension. If we can't conceptualize that and understand how it works in oppression, then my whole argument is null and void. So I'm going to maybe draw back to some of these things. First, I'm going to talk about belief. So we live now in a world where knowledge is the trend, okay? We don't have to believe in anything anymore because we have Google. We can look up answers to things. We can find out the history on things. We can actually start to piece together the pictures or the pieces to the puzzle that we've been going without for so long, because history tells us that things have been hidden from us. Reading and doing your research will tell you that there are several things that you just simply don't know. So you can find out, you can Google, you can research, you can ask people, you can do whatever it is that you need to do to find out the truth. But to only be in a state of belief when you could be in a state of knowledge is a huge fault in this society, because you have a difference now where people don't necessarily want to acknowledge the truth. People prefer to say, well, like, let's just say, for example, if I'm speaking my truth, somebody will say, oh, that's just your opinion. But au contraire, sometimes there are happenings when you can't just disregard something as being someone's opinion if their opinion is rooted in fact. All right, that is dysfunctional. To me, it is the antithesis to progress. You want to make sure that you're acknowledging the truth, making sure that you're addressing it, not dismissing it, because that makes you ignorant. All right, we perish, okay, for a lack of knowledge. So we no longer need to be in a state of belief when we can actually be in a state of knowing. And I'm pretty sure that you can understand how that plays into our own oppression. When we refuse to acknowledge the truth, we are oppressed because we don't understand how we're being oppressed. We don't understand that there are literal things that are happening in reality that we're completely dismissing and being blind to because we're afraid, or because we are lazy, or because we don't want to get out of our comfort zone, whatever the case. So the devil, okay, this is another religious term that is problematic and also leads to the oppression that we are experiencing as a culture of people. So, excuse me, just like the term God or salvation, the word devil is problematic because it is outsourcing. It's heavily outsourcing the nature of what these terms are making reference to. So in the Bible, when the Bible talks about the devil, it talks about the devil being the adversary, or being an individual's adversary, meaning that it is anything that comes against you. Any weapon that's formed against you is your devil. So that can only be in reality now. We can perceive it to be differently, but in reality, the only thing that is your devil is you. All right? Because as human beings, as free entities we don't have limitations. We don't have boundaries. We don't have things that keep us in a state of dysfunction or self-destruction unless we mentally allow ourselves to be kept there. And I'm gonna say this, and I don't want nobody to say nothing to me about it. That is what Kanye West was talking about. He was talking about the fact that oppression is something that happens mentally, okay, especially to a people like us. We have been oppressed mentally, and because of that, I believe that's what he was talking about when he said it was a choice, that it is a choice at this point, after all this time has passed. Now, of course, when we did not know, and we didn't have a means to know, or we would be killed for knowing, then yes, I can understand, I can sympathize, I can empathize. But Kanye West, brother, you are right. At this point in our existence, no, we're not choosing, to be in a state of agony. But we are choosing to be in a state of ignorance when we don't do our diligence to learn and find out how we're being oppressed. Because once we can see the problem, we can identify it and we can grow. So Kanye West, I feel you. It's only a choice because we're choosing to remain ignorant. We're choosing not to say, I'm tired of this. I need to figure out what these people are doing, how they're doing it. Because I'm pretty sure that I can break through if I can learn how I'm actually being attacked and how I'm being conquered. So, I'm going to stop there when it comes to those terms. I have two more. Those terms being the difference between a blessing and an affirmation, and also the difference between sanctification and the truth. I'll talk about those later. But for right now, I want us to understand that when we are making reference to certain terms, to certain concepts, and we're putting them out of context, especially when it comes to our human spirit, when it comes to our society, when it comes to the structure, the functionality of how we live, and how we believe, even the belief in and of itself, it's contributing to our own oppression, because we're not allowing ourselves to open up to the idea that we are oppressed by what we are choosing to do and not to do, what we're choosing to learn and not to learn, what we're choosing to see and not to see, what we're choosing to be and not to be, what we're choosing to say and not to say, what we're choosing to, express and not to express. I guess it's the same thing. But the whole point is, y'all, the whole point is, this is delicious. Our oppression is heavily because we are participating in it on our own. We are participating in it as volunteers and as ignorant people. So let's start redesigning the way we think, the way we speak, the way we understand, and let's start dreaming of something better. Because this idea that we have that we're not powerful against the powerful, who we perceive to be powerful. And let me tell you something. The people who are in power right now, I'm gonna do this. The people who are in power right now are the weakest ones in our society. The reasons why they have been so focused on domination is because they understand and know that if they do not find a way to dominate or to assert themselves as an authority, that they would be seen as everything but. All right. And I want to also make this statement that I'm not talking about all Europeans. There are so many Caucasian people that are willing to learn, that are willing to say, all right, clearly the way this society is functioning is not right. It doesn't feel good. It's not moral. It doesn't have any value. The traditions that we've set don't have any value. It's another thing we're going to be talking about again. I think I mentioned it before, is that we have to understand that everything that's traditional is not valuable. All right. So when you have a tradition, just because you call it a tradition does not mean it is worthy of being such, or that is worthy of being so. So let's get to know these things. Let's get to know our society. Let's get to know the foundation on which our society has been built upon, and let's start to figure out how we can go forward from here. I don't want to sit around and talk about oppression all day if I can't talk about freedom. I don't want to sit around and talk about oppression all day if I can't talk about my dreams, if I can't talk about my vision, if I can't talk about how this whole thing is going to end up, okay? I'm a woman. I need to know. What you plan on doing with this life? So, I'm I'm checking myself out in the mirror because I really don't know exactly how I look right now. Because, you know, I said this thing right here. I'm doing my little Cardi B voice. Y'all, I did me a little twist out and I'm kind of loving it. I feel cute. I feel cute. So that's everything I'm talking about right now. Let's get our wording together. Let's get our understanding together. Let's restructure how we understand our way of life. Let's restructure how we understand the concepts that we've been taught, and let's put them in their proper context. We can do it. I know we can because I did it. I reconfigured. I had to go up in my soul, baby. I had to take some things out and put some things back and tighten some stuff up. Ooh, Lord, because I was wretched. Not ratchet, wretched. My wretched soul. I was on some other stuff. And that's another thing I'll kind of talk to you guys about is my journey. Trying to figure out all this stuff that I'm saying. But I'm sure you'll be here when I come back. Holla.